Hi everyone, good evening. I'll just give you all some time to join tonight's Facebook Live. I was on Facebook Live this morning and I was asking people what their favourite food was. So if you want to let me know about your favourite food, you could do that. Or what you had for dinner, you could let me know. Welcome everyone. I'll just give you all some time to come in to this evening's Benedetti Sessions Facebook Live. And I just said that I was on Facebook Live earlier on and I was asking people what their favourite food was. So if you want to let me know, or if you want to let me know what you've had for dinner, you can also do that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of food. Hi Anna, lovely to have you here. So nice that we've got this chat function and people can say hi. It's so cool. So cool. I'll just wait. Oh, someone's had a Joe Wicks dinner. Is Joe Wicks not the person who does the personal training? Does he do food as well? Wow. Hi Emily. Oh, you had spaghetti bolognese. Oh, amazing. You're also healthy. Hi Bella. Absolutely fantastic. Such healthy people. This is incredible. So this evening we are talking about getting creative with your children. Now, just to kind of start off the session, I do want to let you know that I know that you already know how to be creative with your children. And in this evening session, we're going to be thinking about, just maybe some thoughts about how to kind of do some, approach some practice as you listen to music as a family. We're just going to be having a bit of a conversation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do for my job when lockdown isn't happening, because this will inform kind of the work that the Benedetti Foundation are doing, which is just incredible. And then we'll talk about how to get creative with your children, and I also will mention the tutorials as well towards the end. If you have any questions, as you've just seen in the chat, if you do have any questions, please do write them in and I will be answering them at the end. So for those of you who I've not met before on the old Facebook Live, my name is Lucy and I'm one of the general musicianship tutors at the Benedetti Foundation. By day, I am a workshop leader and presenter. I'm an associate artist of the BBC Scottish Symphony Orchestra. I lead early years music and a thing called Partner Schools programme at Wigmore Hall, a venue in central London. And I spend my time working with orchestras, opera companies, arts venues, arts organisations and arts charities such as the Benedetti Foundation on their learning programmes. So every performing group that you go to, or every arts venue, their funding, whether it be public or private, often will have a strand linked to learning, linked to engaging the community, the local community who don't access the arts, but not because they don't, because they cannot access the arts. So I'm lucky enough to work, as I said, with under fives, primary school, secondary school. I work in some behavioural units, do some hospital school work, hospices. I work with people living with dementia. I work in prisons. I work with young people on the kind of fringes of the criminal justice system. So a real range, and this has really informed the work that I do. Because quite often the work is linked to classical music. So over the past few years, I've really thought about what do I want people to get out of this session. And I think there's two main things. I want people to know that their voice is important, regardless if it's somebody living with dementia, or if it's someone who's 3 years old, or if it's a member of a community choir. I want them to know that their voice is important. And I also want them to know that classical music is just such a brilliant way to tell the most vibrant stories. It's just such a great way to tell a story. So I feel super proud to be working with the Benedetti Foundation, because I think it's quite rare, and this is just a personal opinion, I think it's quite rare to find a charity who not only are looking for kind of technical excellence in how your child plays their instrument or engages with music, but that they know that it's so much more of a holistic approach, that by knowing more about the composer, that by drawing pictures and by asking opinions, we can really give our young people so much confidence in their own voices, which for me is just the absolute most important thing. So yeah, I'm really happy to be working there. But also, like, slight kind of behind the scenes, we all know Nikki is like absolutely amazing and she's fantastic at playing, but her kind of wisdom and intelligence when it comes to music education is just kind of spellbinding. And not only that, but then you pair Nikki with Laura Gardner, our education director, who just has this kind of mind-blowing like wealth of experience, and the two of them together are just the most exciting, passionate team. So your young people are in such good hands. But through the work that I do, I have to kind of really think about accessible ways that we can access classical music. And it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine that by saying, okay, well, we're going to make this classical music accessible, people then assume that you've dumbed it down, which just could not be further from the truth. I really see it as the other way around. I think it's our job as kind of classical musicians to be better at communicating what we do. And hopefully there'll be some ideas in that tonight. So one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is, what do I listen to and how should I listen to it with my child? And I once went to a lecture on this, on the best music for children to listen to, because I'm sure you know there's like Mozart playlists, there's like Bach for babies, which is actually an amazing charity, but I'm thinking about specifically Bach music for babies, or there's kind of like C music for going to sleep, that kind of thing. I'm a big believer in you play your child or your children whatever you love. I was brought up on kind of 60s and 70s music, along with Doris Day and like musical theatre. And I just think if you can kind of show your child that you just love this piece of music and tell them why you love it, that's just such a fantastic way in. And, if that's classical music, absolutely fantastic. Tell them why you love it. Explore the story together. And if you don't know classical music, don't worry. My parents didn't listen to classical music when I was growing up, although I think Classic FM was always on in the background. Now we're looking at these 4 composers of the week. We're looking at Tchaikovsky and Vaughan Williams. Then you've got the Thomas Tallis in there, Warlock, and of course Paganini. So, you can kind of go down, pick one composer and like explore them together. YouTube is a fantastic thing. You listen to one Paganini thing and then all of the Paganini things come up. And I think the key is really how you listen to the music. It's sort of, and I'm not saying that this is what you would find in a family setting, but quite often in schools it'll be listening to a piece of music, tell me what instruments you can hear. I personally think that that's like not a very enriching experience, apart from that you can identify what instrument it is. I think a far more interesting question is, but why are the trumpets playing so aggressively like that? What is the part of the story that they're trying to tell? What character are they? Or, kind of, why does this music sound menacing? Oh, well, it's because the trumpets are playing staccato and they're playing really kind of high pitch. There's so much that we can unpick there that a child has identified. But firstly, it's just about modelling it. But it's about not, and I mean this in a totally respectful way, but it's about not thinking about the boring aspects about the music. It's about thinking about the storytelling and thinking about, yeah, but what do you see in your imagination? That's so funny, because in my imagination, I see this. You know, so it's kind of about active listening and just asking questions, and then kind of just on the creative tutorials that I've done on YouTube, you know, there's various things where you can listen and you can draw at the same time, or you can paint, or, you know, you can pick a color. You know, there's so many things that you can do when listening to music, and these creative tutorials are up on YouTube, so do go check them out. But for me, it's about listen to a piece of music that you as a parent love, and explore it together, and active listening and really active questions, bring it to life. And you know, if your child is bored in their practice, fine, take 10 minutes to explore the composer that they are looking at. Who was that composer? Like, did they have a family? You know, give it some context that they will kind of understand. I wish I had done that. I used to play the clarinet, and I've not played it in like, I don't know, 15 years maybe, 16, 17 years. And I never joined the dots in my lesson. I never kind of thought about the composers. I just saw it as like really stressful patterns that I couldn't even really read. And, you know, it was never about the storytelling. And I think that's why I'm a singer by trade, and I think that's why I was so drawn, because with lyrics, you know, it's instantly all about the story. So that's the first thing in how to get creative. Even listening to music can become a really kind of wholesome and active experience. So often people think listening is passive. It is not passive. It can be the most active and creative thing. The next thing, and again, I mean this with so much respect and love, and I have been told this, and I spectacularly fail at this on a regular basis: get out the way. And honestly, it's such a thin line between kind of creating that safe space that people can create, and then just bulldozing past it with your idea. And I am I do this all the time. And I mean it with respect. And I guess what I mean is, so often we have expectations of... Actually, I'll give you a wee anecdote. So often I do songwriting with 0 to 5s. You know, probably be reception age, nursery reception age. And so often you'll be working with teachers and then 30 kids. And, you know, you'll be writing a song, and then there's such a good rhyme that you could do. Such a good rhyme. But does the 3-year-old know? Absolutely not. Do they want to sing about chocolate when actually we're meant to be singing about stars? Absolutely. But do you just have to get out of the way? Yeah. You just have to honour their creative vision and sing about chocolate instead of stars. It's just what you have to do. You have to let the rhyme go. And it can be, as a parent, as a teacher, it can be an unsatisfying experience. But what you're doing to your child is really kind of affirming what they are doing, and especially if you model it back, that is just like the most brilliant thing that you can do. So yeah, in terms of getting creative, it's get out the way. And again, like the listening, people think that this is then all parents being passive. It's not, because you have to create the space for them to be able to do that. You have to create the space for them that mistakes are fine. It doesn't actually matter what they do. It's about their voice being valid and important. And the best way, again, to do that is by, you know, you kind of modelling and then leaving it and seeing what they come up with. It's about thinking, it's about giving them leadership, really. And in whatever space I work with, whoever I'm working with, it'll be me, the workshop leader, it'll be a musician, and it will be a participant. And in that space, we're all equal voices. No one is really the leader. And I think, you know, getting out of the way takes lots of permission. And so many of the parents that I work with have been so awfully treated by some music groups. And I know I'm really passionate about this, but it's hard being a parent in a music group, because you have to do something very specific and bounce your baby in a very specific way, even if like they're feeding, and it's just like, it can be, you know, really stressful. And actually, when have you ever had permission just to kind of like, just sit with them and see what they come up with, you know? And let their creativity guide you as to what goes next. Because they might be like, oh, but I don't know what the composer would sound like. And then that's where you come in. Have a little Google, you know, and kind of almost let their creativity guide you, which is really difficult, because inevitably there's going to be times where nothing happens, and that's totally fine. But it's about giving yourself permission to get out of the way, which is really difficult. I can see that someone's put empowerment. Absolutely, it's empowering your child to find their creative voice, to find their confidence. Confidence isn't something that you can tell somebody to have, is it? It's something that has to kind of grow very steadily over time. So, a couple of things there: how to listen and what to listen to, getting out of the way. And the next thing is levels of engagement. And I just wanted to mention this, because again, I think quite often in music sessions, when I am working with parents and children, I see quite like a stressful atmosphere forming, because people think that their child has to like shake a maraca in a very specific way. And it's just not about that. And the amount of times that parents will apologize to me because so-and-so hasn't joined in, or so-and-so has a tantrum. And it's just, to me, the levels of engagement, like, I work with so many young people who will come to 15 minutes of an hour session. That doesn't mean that they're engaged. For that young person, those 15 minutes could be the most difficult thing to show up for and be on time for, and then kind of they have to run off to something else, and they're just trying to fit everything all in. And levels of engagement, your child might look like they're kind of just sitting back, and again, this dirty word, passive, being passive. So often in my experience, their imagination is going off. And if you can sort of, you know, feed it out of them, get it out of them. That's all that you can do. So again, it's just about the kind of permission, the levels of engagement. You know, if your child doesn't want to practice, or if they don't want to do this, if they're quite vocal about it, fine, they don't need to play that piece, but do something different with it. Or how fast can you play the piece? Yes, we know that the tempo is like this because you're playing it along to the metronome, but how fast can you play it? How slow can you play it? Can you play it up the octave? Can you play it down the octave? You know, just getting really kind of creative and fresh with it. And the last thing that I think that you can kind of get creative with is by linking whatever you do to something else. And this is very much informed by the work that I do at Wigmore Hall with partner schools, with the Partner Schools programme. So I am working with one school for 3 years to try and really embed music into the curriculum. And what we have found is that giving yourself 45 minutes for music during the week is actually a really stressful thing. And, you know, we don't really have music specialists in quite a lot of the schools anymore. And so then it goes to the classroom teachers to then have another string to their bow. And I think 45 minutes is like such a stressful thing. Whereas if you say to the teacher, oh, well, they're learning about volcanoes, and it's like, cool, well, let's do a soundscape about volcanoes. Let's think about all the different sounds that volcanoes make. And then you can see them think, phew, not something else I have to do. And I'm really aware that how to be creative with your child, like, I don't want you thinking that we're telling you something else that you have to do. It's actually so much easier than that. You just have to kind of connect the dots. Whatever bedtime story you're reading, next time you're picking a piece of music to listen to, I wonder what the Gruffalo would listen to, or I wonder what Joe in Little Women would listen to, or I wonder what the character Knots and Crosses would listen to. You know, just kind of linking it all together. Or if someone had spaghetti for dinner, you know, I wonder, so where does spaghetti come from? Oh, it comes from Italy. Imagine if we were in Italy. I wonder what classical music. Are there any Italian classical composers? You know, it's just that kind of thing, like really joining the dots. Because I can't believe the pressure that teachers are under now. And quite frankly, I can't believe the pressure that some parents are under as well. And I think it's really about making it much simpler and observing what you already do is actually you're already probably very, very, very creative. And it's just about finding little ways in your day of making it a bit bigger. You know, make your own family playlist. You know, every morning someone else has, someone in the family, it's their choice to pick the song on Spotify or YouTube that you all just like have a bit of a dance to. And then that's the musical education for the day, you know. So those are just some thoughts about how to listen, what to listen to, about getting out of the way in the most respectful way. About the different levels of engagement. Don't worry if your child is kind of a little bit, it looks like they're being reluctant at first, like pathways are happening, joining the dots are happening. Give yourself permission and linking it to something else. But ultimately, I think as long as you come back to this, it's about their voice being important. That will allow you to give them space to be creative. And just classical music, I find, and I have a classical music degree, I find it quite daunting sometimes or quite scary. But as soon as I think about the stories, I feel so at home. So just really concentrate on the stories of it. Concentrate on the stories of the pieces of music that they are playing. And then just, get creative as possible. And on YouTube, there's a couple of creative tutorials that I've done. One on Fantasia on a Theme of Thomas Tallis by Rafe Vaughan Williams. I got told off for saying Ralph. And I also did one on Paganini. And in those things, we think about a Paganini painting, a Paganini postcard, thinking about writing a review. And the Tallis, thinking about what the composers would say to each other, and thinking about what the composers look like. And someone actually sent in a creative response. And Tallis had the most remarkably, thick thighs, and it was just brilliant because they were in these bright yellow tights. It was just the most happy making thing ever. So hopefully that's given you some ideas. There is a couple of questions. What about during puberty? Any tips specifically for that age? You know, call me crazy. I love working with teenagers. I find it such an interesting age. What I always try to do for that kind of, I'm thinking are we thinking kind of like 11 to 14? Would that be it? I think composition is a really strong tool for that age. And songwriting, I personally do a lot of songwriting with that age. I think it's there's just so much going on, isn't there? And there's so many thoughts, and you only need 3 chords, either on the piano, or there's so many backing tracks on YouTube, or playing on their violins or their cellos, just a 3-chord pattern that then you can start to come up with some lyrics or a melody. I really like doing that kind of thing. Here's another question. What would you recommend for year 10s? Again, I think songwriting and composition, but kind of linking it into what they're doing. You know, if you're playing like a focus game or, I don't know, a bit of a game, come up with a theme tune. Get out their instruments and they have to come up with just like a really short theme tune. That's like, you know, a really cool thing to do. Get them to write musical reviews. Get them to record themselves playing. Just stick on voice note on a phone or an iPad if you're in a school, or the class kind of iPad. Record themselves. I also think for year 10s, and what I do a lot with secondary students, and what something that features quite heavily in the Arts Award, which is kind of kind of like the Duke of Edinburgh, but specifically for arts. There's lots of watching live performances. And I mean, lockdown has been so difficult, but I think if there's one silver lining, the Royal Opera House have La Traviata up. Go and watch it. Roundhouse have so many pop concerts up. Go and watch it. Beyonce's Super Bowl is on YouTube. Wigmore Hall are streaming some concerts in June. Totally free. There's so many live concerts now. And I think particularly with teenagers, it's about their opinions, because I don't know. Personally, I think that I'm always thinking, because of the young people I work with, I'm always thinking about, okay, well, how can they kind of either progress to higher education or progress to getting a job? And it's literally confidence in your voice. And music allows us to have opinions. So particularly with senior school, ask them their opinions and say why, and they have to clearly tell you. There's so many skills that you're testing there. What about for a 6-year-old with a short attention span? I bet that 6-year-old is probably like my niece. Totally fine. 6-year-olds with short attention span. I personally think if it's interesting, they will be involved. But here's the thing, it's about the pacing of it. It's about going from a song to a dance to a little bit of information to maybe having a bit of a movement game to having... I think with younger children, it's very much about the pace of things. And that's really difficult in your home life. But then maybe it's about just a 5-minute activity there and voice noting it for the playlist later. It's about another short activity there. But I think, I don't know. I think movement is a really important thing with short attention spans. I have quite a short attention span, hence why I do like this, that and everything. But yeah, lots of movement as well. Fantastic. I'm just going to refresh my inbox and see if any more questions have come through. Let's see. What happens when the child can hear their storytelling in their own performance, but it isn't noticeable, obvious to the audience or other listeners? That's such an interesting question. So when they can hear it in their own performance, but it's not obvious to other listeners, I think that comes with experience. I remember when I used to do exams and the examiner would say like, technically great, but she was very nervous. I'm thinking, but I was on Broadway. I was in my own little world. I was Doris Day. And I think that that's something that will improve over time. But I also think that recording oneself, and it has to be done in such a sensitive way, because it's so often with young people now and with adults, they look at themselves and how they look physically, and that's just not a good thing. So maybe I keep on saying voice noting, but on your phones, there's always like a recording app where you can record sounds. And I think it's quite a useful exercise, because so often, what you think that you sound like, often it's quite different, isn't it? Amazing. Do we have any other questions? We have an empty piece of music paper waiting to have notes on it, age 9. Where could we start? Okay, we're going to finish on this one. Oh, I wish I had some manuscript paper on me. Here's what we're going to do. I'm so sorry. I'm going to draw a large... You might not be able to see it. Can you see that? Oh, yeah, you can. Okay, so the first thing, what you're going to do with your 9-year-old, or any age really, is you're going to get them to draw a star constellation. So my star constellation is going to look like that. Okay, this is my star constellation. Fantastic. So that means the first note's there. Then we're going to play that. So it's going to be a C. Then we're going to play that. And then we're going to play that. 4 notes. Play them forwards. Play them backwards. Play them twice. Play them 4 times. That's the start of composition right there. Draw a shape on the manuscript paper and then put the dots where you want to. Easy as. Easy, easy as. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm very aware that you're all so busy. And you've been so lovely. Thank you for your questions. And yeah, thank you for being here. I so often work with young people who, yeah, parental engagement is not a thing. So I think your young people are extremely lucky. And from all of the tutors, we just absolutely are loving the virtual Benedetti sessions. So thank you so much for supporting us and for making it happen. Like, lockdown has been hard for the musician community, and you are certainly all making it so much better. So thank you so much. See you all soon, and take care. Bye everyone.